Good Friday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend's off to a great start. Browns continue to get ready for their Monday night game against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Earlier this afternoon, Joel Bitonio, Grant Delpit talked about the Browns' struggles against the Steelers in Pittsburgh.
What's it about that stadium that makes it so hard to win it?
I don't know. We haven't won in that stadium?
2003 in the regular season, yeah.
Oh, no, damn. I didn't know that, but hey, man, it's a new year. It's a new year. They got a great team. Obviously, they've had our number, I guess, for a few years now. So we're going there to take care of business. We're not too worried about that.
Yeah, it's a tough place to play. You know, we haven't had too much success there as an organization. And we know anytime you go there, especially on Monday night, they have a really good history of winning games there. So for us, it's a huge challenge. Division game, you gotta try and get as many of those as you can. So we know they're gonna be ready for the challenge as well. But it's a big opportunity for us. You know, we're really focused on improving each day this week and going in and hopefully putting on a good performance for ourselves.
With that, let's welcome in Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report, All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Brad, the reaction tells you they're not dwelling on the history, which is a good thing. And the fans and the media makes a big thing about the players. Grant Delpit didn't know. What that tells me, he had no idea.
Yeah, that's a good thing, right? You don't want him to know about that or that trend. And, Bitonio kind of said, yeah, as an organization. And I thought that was key that he said that. You know, it's interesting during the broadcast on Sunday, they mentioned the three teams that had the most new players in the league. And the first two are not contenders, but the Browns are considered contenders. And they have I think it was 24 new players or something like that. I mean, I think some of that is a little bit by design, right? You don't want some of these guys have no idea about the history in Pittsburgh. And that's a good thing, I think, as you head into this game. You don't want people dwelling on that. I'm glad that Grant Delpit has no idea. So that's all good. I don't think it affects this team as much.
Yeah, and again, it's guys that are used to winning. They came from the Chiefs and the Packers and teams that have had winning traditions that are used to winning. All right, Jim Schwartz on if the defense of the Browns views Monday as a chance to kind of make a statement.
We're trying to be the best we can be on a particular Sunday. We'll let the chips fall where they may after that. You know, they have a great storied history of defense. We have a lot of respect for what they've done and things like that, but none of that is going to mean anything on Monday night. You know, it's going to be the two teams this year, these guys, Let me know if Mean Joe and Jack Lambert are playing because, if we need a plan for Franco Harris or Lynn Swann or John Stallworth or Franco or Terry Bradshaw, we'll get that ready. But those guys aren't playing. This is a new year. So what's happened in the past, that doesn't mean anything to this game. We have respect for them. We always respect our opponents, but we're going to accentuate us and what we do well and try to give our best performance and not worry about the rest of the league.
And again, Brad, a glimpse into the preparation of this defense. And the more you listen to Jim Schwartz, I don't know about you, the more I like hearing what he has to say.
I could listen to him all day. He's so good. He gets it. I love the approach, right? Bringing up all the old Pittsburgh legends and let me know if they're playing. It doesn't matter. And he's right. And certainly he's conveyed that message to the team, which is what makes him, Jim Schwartz, and is what makes him. I heard the quote this week that he said, if you're not celebrating with your teammates, it's a loaf, you're loafing. I just love some of the stuff he says. He gets it. He 100% understands the rivalry, but he also understands that he has a ton of talent on his side of the ball, and they were playing with the most confidence and an identity that has been missing forever on Sunday. So they got to continue that this week. I think they can give this Pittsburgh offense fits. So hopefully that's the result. But certainly he exudes confidence in us as a fan base for sure.
All right. I know you wrote an article, things I think I know about the Browns. A couple of them defensive related. Martin Emerson, the real deal. Grant Delpit continues his ascent, and the weight has been lifted. So take us through those three things.
Yeah, so the first thing is Emerson. I'm kind of been a huge fan since day one and wrote about him a lot last year. Just not only his play, but his mental approach and his swagger, his confidence, his in-your-face style of play that I kind of wish the whole defense would take on, right? Well, they have this year under Schwartz's command, and Emerson is really thriving. Like he was running some of those routes for Teagans for him, basically. He stops and reads the back shoulder throw on the one play. I mean, he just made some really incredible heady plays to keep him catchless in that game, Higgins, and some good plays on Chase as well. He just looks like, and there was some conversation about like what is his ceiling, right? Like I think he has a pretty high ceiling. Like I think he could legit be a number one corner in the league. A lot of people were like, "Oh, cornerback 2." I don't think so. I think he could be a number one, and I think his ceiling is. I mean, he could be an All-Pro someday. I mean, he has that length and the skill set to be really, really good in zone and man. So he is the real deal for me. Grant Delpit finished last season on a high, absolutely. Came out this year, and look, if we get that version of Grant Delpit all year, this defense is in good shape, right? Like he looked fantastic on Sunday, 91.3 PFF grade, led the defense. He was all over the place and in coverage. Made the play of the day, probably breaking up that Higgins third down pass in coverage and knocked it right out of his hand. So Delpit continues his ascent. Was kind of the theme of what I was writing is, he finished the end of last year so strong. Coming out this year playing the way he did certainly leads us to maybe the Browns having a tough decision in the future on what they want to do contract-wise with him. And the weight has been lifted is just kind of like, for this team, it was such a long off season, right? Like in a long, like even free agency was stretched out. Like they signed the first free agent at the beginning, they signed their last one, Shelby Harris, in the middle of camp, 4 preseason games, Hall of Fame game. It just seemed like, at least in the Cleveland bubble, the pressure has kind of been mounting for them. And to get that win is just such like and to see the defense play that way, it was such like a lift of weight off of their shoulders, and it feels like they can be who they are now, right? And I hope we see that result on Monday night as well.
Yeah, I want to see it back-to-back weeks, as Jim Schwartz had said. So we'll hear more from Schwartz and some of the Browns a little bit later. Some newsy stuff from the Browns. Tom Pelissero tweets out, veteran safety Eric Harris working out for the Browns today. So that's kind of interesting. Again, safety room looks pretty good. You've got Thornhill still kind of iffy, but Delpit, McLeod, it's been a huge upgrade. So it's interesting that Andrew Berry keeps looking, keeps tweaking, and I'm sure that's a file. Hey, we're gonna bring him in, work him out, see what we think, and if we need a safety, that could be somebody they look to.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one, right? Like this one, a head scratcher. Certainly, Eric Harris, 33 years old. Dave played in the Canadian League. He played, I think, last played for the Falcons in 2022. So just kind of a strange one. He's played all over the place. He's played halfback. He's played safety. He's played corner. He's played linebacker. He's played all over the place in his career. So kind of a weird one. I was puzzled by that one a little bit.
Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Now, I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. We head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll dive into the Steelers and Kenny Pickett a little bit. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms.
Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE with Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report, the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason for the first time today.
It would seem to me that the Steelers would love to knock Deshaun Watson out of the game one way or another to give them an advantage in this game. It would not be the first time they knocked out one of our starting quarterbacks. What is a good game plan that would protect Deshaun and still have him be effective? We no doubt have to match their physical play and be smart on their field. We can take them. Let's go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Brad, you know, the thing is he's a quarterback that runs, so he's going to take some hits. You saw that. Quick passes, don't have him try to extend plays that aren't meant to be extended, I guess, is the way to look at it.
Yeah, you're right. He's going to take some hits. You worry about the main thing is you don't want him getting teed off on his back blind side by TJ Watt is like the biggest concern, right? So DeJuan Jones, obviously, Jed Wills, the both tackle positions are a little bit of a concern here. I'm almost a little more concerned with Wills at this point, but we'll see how Jones plays. Obviously, you can chip to help him out on that side, and I think they will continue to do that as they did throughout the Bengals game. But I also think something we didn't see because of the weather, and I don't even know if I've heard maybe it might rain on Monday night. Let's hope not. God, I just want a dry game so we can get a true evaluation of this offense. But either way, the RPO game, if they can incorporate that, you can kind of neutralize that edge, right? Because then the quarterback's reading what the edge is doing. The edge has to kind of stay at home because he can give the ball off to the running back. And some of that can slow that pass rush down a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they incorporate. I know that's part of their this iteration of the offense, right? So I would expect to see that in a more dry atmosphere if we are granted that on Monday night.
Well, so let's take a look at an updated injury report from practice. Again, there's one more practice this week because of the Monday night. So Thornhill, Harris, and Hurst all returning to practice. Siaka Ika is the only one not practicing. That from Scott Petrak. So, you know, as good as as the defense played, Juan Thornhill, one of their bigger free agent signings, did not play in that game, Brad.
Yeah, and he played so well in the preseason. He played so aggressive. He looked so fast. I was looking forward to seeing him. I don't know if we'll see him this week. It seems like they're kind of slow playing that a little bit, his return. It may be more serious than we initially thought, I guess. But you don't want to bring him back too early because it's the kind of thing that'll reoccur. And it's not like they're hurting for, to your point earlier, with Rodney McLeod, they have a guy there that can provide a high level of play on the back end. Ronnie Hickman as well, I think, got in a little bit on Sunday too. So, you know, I am a little concerned with the defensive interior, right? Like, does that mean they're going to have to elevate Togiai or Tristan Hill maybe if Hurst and Shelby Harris are not going to play on Monday night? Now, they did not participate. Achilles is an ominous thing whenever you see that on an injury report. So we'll have to see how that progresses. Certainly with Monday Night Football, this is more like a Thursday, right? So
yep.
In the game week process. So we'll see.
All right, so Steelers were not good against the 49ers, especially on offense. Kenny Pickett struggled. Ben Roethlisberger talked about what he saw from Kenny Pickett against the 49ers.
I thought Kenny was off today, which we hadn't seen all preseason.
Yeah.
Now you can go and say, and I've talked about on this show, did he get enough reps in the preseason? There's going to be a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of Monday morning armchair quarterbacks. I'll be one right now. That'll sit there and look at it and ask the what ifs.
Sure.
You know, you can't go back to it, but that's a legit question. Did he have enough reps? Did this? Did that? But he was off today, and he hadn't been off at all so far. He was behind on a lot of throws. He missed a lot of throws that he shouldn't miss.
Usually doesn't.
Usually doesn't. Yeah, I mean, he has been on point. And today he wasn't, for whatever reason. Was it nerves? Was it jitters? Was it just how good the Niners?
And again, Brad, difference between preseason and regular season in the NFL is huge for quarterback play. And the Browns have some of the similar pieces to that defense that created so much issues.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's like, oh, he looks so good. He got plenty of preseason reps. He got a lot, actually, right? Like but they were crowning him for, driving up and down the field against 2s and 3s, right? It's a lot in vanilla defenses of the preseason, which, overreaction is kind of the name of the game in the NFL, even after week 1, too, right? It's something we got to be careful of. But he, the Browns have very similar talent, right, to the Niners. And I think if you can create the same kind of pressure that they were creating against Pickett, then you will make a long day for him. I am not like a believer in Kenny Pickett. A lot of people, some people are, some people aren't. He is has been kind of an illusion a little bit of what we've seen. A lot of people have been quick to say, well, look at this. I know he played well at the end of last year and he may have that clutch gene, but I suspect that the Browns will have a good game plan in place. And if you can pressure him, he'll make mistakes, as we saw.
Yeah, and again, he is somebody that, especially the pocket, when the pocket is not clean, he struggles. And we've seen that. We've seen that at quarterback for the Browns in the past quite a bit. So this is from Steelers Live. Dale Lally and Matt Williamson give Pittsburgh's perspective of the Steelers' offense against the Browns' defense and what they saw from the Browns.
You heard all the talk in the offseason how they were moving the defensive ends out a little farther out. Myles Garrett was going to play some wide 9 stuff, and you knew that was coming. Well, then they started moving Garrett around a little bit more. He's standing up behind the line of scrimmage. You knew they also were going to flip-flop him back and forth. They kicked Zadarius Smith, the guy that they acquired from Minnesota, on passing downs. He'll kick inside. But they were really blitz-happy last week against the Cincinnati Bengals almost 40% of the time. And the book on the Bengals in previous years, you didn't want to blitz Joe Burrow. He eats that stuff up. Well, he didn't do it here. So Kenny Pickett's going to have to identify who's coming. First of all, he's going to have to look and see, okay, where's Myles Garrett lined up at? And it's going to be all over the place. And there were times against the Bengals on Sunday, Garrett's out there kind of waving his hands in the air like he just didn't care because he's trying to get that attention. So you have to identify where he's at, but then you also have to identify where those blitzers are coming from and what your hot reads are. And if they then back out of that, you have to be ready to adjust on the fly. So, the above the net game this week is going to be very important for Kenny Pickett.
And Brad, I don't know about you, Jim Schwartz is really good at disguising it and finding matchups that favor him. And that's what he's going to be doing all game long.
Yeah, and something they didn't mention there about the blitzing is they do a lot of the simulated blitzes, right, or the simulated rushes. So you get guys showing blitz and then dropping, or if they blitz a safety. We even saw Myles Garrett drop back into coverage one play, right? They're not necessarily always taking guys out of coverage to blitz, but they're disguising what they're doing, right, and bringing guys from different angles, and it confused the heck out of Joe Burrow. I suspect they will have a similar game plan for Pickett, probably with tweaks that, obviously for the way that the Pittsburgh offensive line is, but not a stellar group on that offensive line, in my opinion. So I certainly expect the pressure to continue. I mean, that should be part of the game plan. And to your point earlier, Pickett struggles with that. If you can even just make him move his feet a little bit, you're doing a good job. And maybe he'll throw you the ball, right? So I expect that the pressure to continue, and he will, pre to post snap, what he shows a quarterback and what actually is coming is different, right? And that's what confused Burrow, and that's what will hopefully confuse Pickett.
Yeah, and again, they only ran the ball 10 times because they got behind by so much so quickly. So they're going to want to run the ball without question. Jim Schwartz, Talked about the defense's approach to the Steelers, especially given the success of Week 1.
Our job is to go out and do it every week and to be consistent. And, I think we set a good standard for how we're going to play. And I think it didn't just stand alone. I think, if you saw some of our practices from training camp, you felt some of the same thing. And if you saw our preseason game, I hope you would see the same thing. But, it's just a start. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's Pittsburgh, and this is a huge rivalry, an away game, a primetime game. We'll keep the focus on that and not what happened last week. We want to carry over the effort and the toughness and the swag and the badassery and all those things that we talk about. But, that game's over, and our challenge is to do it again this week, because this is a big game for our team, for our franchise, for our city.
And again, Brad, if he's saying that to the media, he's saying that in the meeting rooms. That's the message.
So refreshing. Like, that's so refreshing to hear. The badassery, the swag, yeah, you want to carry it over, but he's right. Week 1 is behind, you got to flush it, but carry over the confidence, carry over the identity, right? Like, that you felt like he's been working on creating for this defense. At times last year, I said it was a hard team to root for last year because of some of the things going on, the finger pointing and stuff, right? A hard team to like at times. This team is easy to like, right? Like, they're in through 1 week. Like, watching that defense, that's an easy defense to root for and like, because of the things he's talking about. So carry that stuff over, but the importance is on this rivalry and this game and getting to 2-0 for the first time in forever, right? So he just nailed it. He gets it, and I love listening to him. He's so fantastic.
Yeah, 1993, last time they were 2-0, so it's 30 years. Brad Ward and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, take a look at some storylines and matchups. Browns-Steelers Monday night. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report and the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I just wanted to make a comment on Monday night's game versus the Steelers. I have full confidence in our defense. I think that we are going to have a good faring. We're going to be able to stop the run and contain the pass. That being said, it's truly going to come down to our offense and our ability to move the ball and get the ball in the end zone. We need to see some better play in the red zone. Hopefully the elements won't be an issue. And, I would just like to see Watson calm down a little bit, try to throw the ball a little bit more on time, step up into the pocket. I feel like that he's going to have to be able to rely on the guards in the middle of that line for protection a little bit more in this week. But I think it's truly going to come down to our ability to put points on the board and pull away early so we can rely on that run game. All right, go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Brad, when you look at this, I don't know about you, but this is normally I'm thinking the Browns kind of want to, the last couple of years, kind of to want to muck things up and make it kind of a fist fight in a phone booth. I think the Steelers want to do that. They want to run. They're not an explosive offense. They're just not. Pickens is, I guess you want to tell me he's an explosive player? All right. Najee Harris, nah. They're going to have to extend drives to win.
Yeah, they want this to be a 10-7 game, right? Like, this is the roles are kind of reversed, right? A little bit. They want it to be a rock fight, and like you said, muck it up a little bit. And they, their running game they got away from early. I'm sure that's an emphasis this week for them. If I was Mike Tomlin, right, and I was playing the Browns after watching week 1 in the preseason, and I was talking about this last night, like, I just feel like I would be like, I'm not going to let Nick Chubb beat me, right? Like, I'm going to make Deshaun Watson beat me in this game. And so I expect heavy boxes. I expect safeties coming up. I expect them to try to deter the Browns from running the ball effectively early in the game. And they're going to try to make Watson beat you. And I think he can, most definitely, right? He better be able to. But I would think that would be Pittsburgh's game plan coming into this. Take away Chubb.
Yeah, I would think so. And to be honest with you, I think under normal circumstances, the Browns would welcome that. Okay, you want the guy we wanted to get to play quarterback? Yeah, we'll take that. The one thing I really liked was the screen game, the Chubb. They played that well, and loaded boxes. That's a way to still have Nick Chubb involved and negate those. This is from ESPN Week 2 previews. So Browns Steelers storyline to watch. Nick Chubb's performance has been a bellwether for this game. The Steelers are 5-0-1 when they hold Chubb to fewer than 80 yards, and 0-3 when he gains more than 80 yards. And again, I go back to what I just said with that, Brad. You got to factor in the screen game with Nick Chubb now, because if you want to load the box and rush the passer and they can dump it over the first line of the defense, they'll do that all game.
Yeah, these trends are so interesting, right? The 80 yards, of course, right? Like Christian McCaffrey ran for I think it's at 152 or 162 yards last week, whatever. Of course, yeah, they won. If you get a back that's going to go over 80 yards on the ground, generally, most of the time, any team's going to win, right? Like, if you can dominate time of possession and the ball like that, that's just kind of the trend of the NFL and in a passing league, right? So, certainly, to your point, the extension of the run game, right? Where you get Elijah Moore the ball on the outside in a bubble screen or a jet sweep, right? Or him coming out of the backfield, or Nick Chubb in the screen game, or just even on him leaking out to the as a dump off or a drop off or a check down, right? Like those things are kind of extensions of the run game. So do I think he has to get 80 yards in this game for them to win? No, I don't. I think that this offense has more iterations and options where they can get him the ball in different areas of the field and still have him be effective to win this game. So it has been an indicator in the past, certainly. I hope he goes over 80 yards, but I don't think it's a must.
All right, bold prediction stats to know from that same article. Browns' dynamic pass rushing duo of Myles Garrett and Darius Smith will sack Kenny Pickett 5 times. Stats to know, since 2007, Mike Tomlin's first season as Steelers head coach, Browns quarterbacks rank last in completion percentage, last in yards per dropback, 4th lowest in QBR against Pittsburgh of any divisional matchup, 96 total. That's why the Steelers have had so much success against the Browns.
I should have saved that weight has been lifted article for this week, because like there's so many trends going against the Browns this week. Like every trend, I was writing them down earlier. Pittsburgh's 20-0 at home on Monday Night Football. The Browns haven't won in Pittsburgh since 2003. Tomlin's 25-6-1. There's the worst the worst quarterback stats ever against Pittsburgh over time. All of the trends point towards Pittsburgh this week. So really, they can exercise some demons this week, Dave, with a win. And I certainly think I think they will sack Kenny Pickett 5 times is a lot, but if you can pressure him is the key, right? Like it's not sack as a total number, I don't think is the key, but just making him get off his spot and pressuring him is the key, because that's when he'll be ineffective to the first part of that statement. But the Browns appear to me, and don't want to be overreaction, right? But they appear to be the better team here. To your point that maybe Pittsburgh wants to slow it down and kind of ugly up the game, right? I think that the Browns should win this game, and I feel strongly about that. So, like, yeah, let's exercise those demons. I think a fast start could really do some damage to this Pittsburgh team.
Yeah, again, 49ers were up 17-0 before they blinked. They punted on their first 5 possessions, did the Steelers. So if you get to that again, all of a sudden everybody's going, oh, here we go again. Yep, I agree. All right, before I let you go, some key matchups. What are some of the key things that you're looking for and some things that need to happen for the Browns to win?
Obviously, I'll be watching Watson. It's the biggest thing. If we get a dry night, I want to be able to evaluate him. Certainly feel like he was amped up in that game, and weather played a factor for sure. But if you watch him, he was rushed, right, and on a lot of those throws, and I'm sure he was fired up. Hopefully that is gone, right, like a little bit, and he can settle in, take a deep breath, calm down, and throw the ball like he did all of camp, right, and like what we saw in the preseason. So I hope that is something certainly I'll be looking for. The main matchups are for the Browns offensive line, both tackles, right? Like versus Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. Like those are the most critical matchups in this game. Is the Browns will chip to help, but you can really only do that on one side most of the time. So the other side, somebody's going to have to hold up. And TJ Watt, I was watching all of his pressures from week 1. He will move from the wide 9 all the way to the 4-eye inside, right? Like he moves around and he is a menace, right? Like, so Jones will have his hands full. We'll see how he can do in one-on-ones. But if you have to chip to help on that side, that means Wills has to play well. So something's got to give here, right, Dave? And that's my concern. Is that they can hold up on both sides of the tackle position.
Brad Ward, Orange and Brown Report, and the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, as always. Great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Brad.
You are the absolute best, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Brad Ward, make sure you check him out, host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. You can also read him in the Orange and Brown Report. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout, some film analysis of the Browns defense. We'll hear from the Steelers on the Browns on the Steelers. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Browns getting ready to face the Steelers Monday night in Pittsburgh. Let's take a look at some film analysis video breakdown of just how good the Browns defense played against the Bengals in Week 1. Brian Baldinger, former offensive lineman, takes us through what he saw from the Browns against the Bengals.
That's Zadarius Smith over on right side 99. New Brown outside linebacker. They don't block him the first play, and Joe Burrow gets hit on the first play. All right, those hits add up. And then they had great coverage. Like here's Martin Emerson at the bottom. He runs a route better than Jamar Chase, and he makes the catch out of bounds. Coverage and pass rush. And then let's just do the Myles Garrett flash dance right here. This is flash dance. What's he doing? Like which way is he going? Well, as soon as he does this, that's a locomotive coming right at Joe Burrow. Any quarterback's got to move right there. And then here comes Okoronkwo. Big signing in free agency, gets his first sack as a Brown.
Burrow in trouble. Burrow is dumped. He couldn't break away. Pressure came from all angles for the Browns.
Now, double-A gap pressure right here. Joe Burrow's just been hit hard twice in the first 6 plays. All right, watch how he starts to throw a football now. Now, all of a sudden, Joe Burrow, the classic thrower, just let me get the ball out of my hands. I just don't want to get hit again. Honestly, I'll just push it. Watch this. Watch him throw a football right here. Like, it's a screen, all right, to mix it. Look how he's throwing it. He looks like he's back in Athens, Ohio, like playing basketball. A little push pass. Chest pass right there.
Now, so this has been fairly evident from Joe Burrow. He's not throwing the ball like he normally does, so maybe doesn't have the confidence in the grip.
That was definitely evident. Did not have confidence in the grip whatsoever. So you saw Browns pressure from a number of different angles, also dropping guys into coverage. Baldinger, some of the things that made this Browns defense so good in Week 1.
There's Darius Smith. You remember what he's been doing all day? Watch this, like the little stunt right here. All right, here he comes. Joe Burrow, like, he sees him, he feels him like, I'm not taking another one of these hits. I'm just going to get rid of the ball. The position that Joe was in, that this is what Cleveland did to him right there. It was a long, hard day. Now, how about Grant Delpit? Like, he's on T. Higgins, the safety right here, on a spray fade. Everybody in the secondary benefited from a great pass rush. And they played good technique. I didn't get handsy. They lined up. They knew what they were doing. Good communication. Jim Schwartz has a well-coached team. That's what they look like. All right, now you get T. Higgins. All right, this player, Martin Emerson, is a good player, man. He's just a good player. Wins again on the outside.
High ball, looking for Higgins. Emerson holds up once again.
We've been seeing double-A gap pressures all day, right? This is fourth quarter now. Burrow's used to seeing it. They're going to handle the double-A gap. But watch Grant Delpit come right behind it. And they drop Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. Now you get a free runner right at Joe Burrow. And he's hit again. Look where that ball ends up. Over Jamar Chase's head.
Bounces off the hand of Chase.
The Steelers will probably try to attack the middle of the field. The Bengals didn't do that very often. Freiermuth, Pickens will likely do that. Kenny Pickett, the Steelers quarterback, talked about the importance of getting George Pickens involved in this offense early.
He'll naturally get more as it goes. It just kind of shook out that way. That Cal had a lot. A-Rob had a good amount. I mean, he still had his touches, but we obviously want to get him more involved. So that will continue to be a challenge as we go.
Okay, from the standpoint of home field advantage, your second one at home here, it's pretty rare what we saw last weekend where there's as much of the infiltration of road fans. And how do you keep your home fans in it for your defense to help them out in the third and fourth quarter?
Play better. It's not a rocket science answer. I can't give you any magical answer there. I'm not too concerned with that, though. We have a lot that we need to focus on and get better on. The outside noise, the outside, distractions, whatever it may be, out of our control.
Kenny, is there one throw you kick yourself over where you say, man, I make that throw all the time?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. It was just off a little bit. Can't explain why. Felt good going into it. It happens, man. You're playing the NFL. It happens. I'm itching to get back out there Monday and play.
And again, the 49ers defensive front particular sped up Kenny Pickett, and he was not able to adjust to it. Steelers offensive coordinator Matt Canada on what his offense needs to improve on.
Wasn't good, can't score 7 points, can't do all those things, so no secret about that. So I'm giving you that, but I'm also saying it's one game and we got to move on. And for me, it's Thursday. I'm kind of there. We got to do this now with you guys, and I appreciate that. But for us, we've moved on. It's not what we expected. It's not how we practiced. It's not how our guys have played. And by no means do we have no concern that that's going to continue. But certainly, I appreciate that that's what we did. And it was disappointing, but we got to move on. I'll take your questions.
After watching the tape, what do you think Kenny needs to clean up the most?
I think we all got to clean things up, right? We all got to be better. There's some things that Kenny would like to have back, just like everybody else. So I'm not, there's plays, that's every game, though. That's football. That's certainly NFL football. One play goes here or there, and it's a different game, and you're not down. You can't go 5 series with 3 and outs and get ourselves down 20-0 and have any kind of a normal routine or rhythm. Everything that we talked about doing, you can't do. And if we'd have done those things and been down 3 scores, it looked like we weren't trying to catch up. You got to play to win. So Kenny can improve, but we all can.
And again, the beginning of that game against the Steelers Monday night will be a key. They fell behind. The 49ers can never climb out of that hole. If the Browns defense and offense can put them back in a hole, that would be beneficial Monday night. Let's turn our attention a little bit now to the offense. Joel Bitonio on Deshaun Watson and the offense kind of getting more and more comfortable with him.
Definitely more comfortable with offense. We've played in Pittsburgh now as a group before. it wasn't our best game at the end of last year, but I think we have that confidence. I think we had one game this year to kind of get some stuff under our belt, and obviously it was a sloppy weather game and things like that, but the confidence in what we're running is there. Now we just got to go out there and execute and continue to improve the minor details to make it really work.
Interesting to see what this offense can do when it is not a quote-unquote weather game. The Browns changed what they were doing because the rain and the ball and the conditions of the game dictated that you really weren't going to throw it in that first half, and they threw it a little bit better in the second half. So it'll be interesting to see what they do if this is not another weather game. Deshaun Watson talked about what he has seen from Pittsburgh's defense and facing the Steelers.
A well-coached group that flies around, that wants to create problems for the offense, try to create turnovers and pitch you in long distances so their front can get after you a little bit.
Obviously, the finale last year wasn't the offense's best game. So when you go back and watch that film, what stands out to you the most?
We had our opportunities we didn't capitalize on. And we just got to go out there and just pretty much keep pushing forward. But, we're not thinking about last year. We're focused on, what we can do on Monday night.
Well, we heard earlier in the show, Jim Schwartz not focusing on last year or previous years for the Browns and Steelers and the Browns' lack of success in Pittsburgh. Schwartz talked about his style of coaching defense.
I expect players to play with their personality. I don't want to coach robots on the field. I expect them to have personality, and every guy's different. We talked about AWalk, and he's a little bit different than Miles. And we talked about Grant, and we talked about, all these different guys. Everybody's got a little different personality, and you can't, force feed everybody into those. I am what I am. I embrace it, Sometimes I can ruffle some feathers. Sometimes I can be a little tough, but there's a motive behind it. I've seen a lot of stuff in the NFL, and I have a good idea of what we want to accomplish and what we want to exceed. And sometimes you got to be willing to ruffle a couple feathers to get that out. Our job is to inspire and motivate our players, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. Sometimes it's a pat on the back, sometimes it's a bite in the ass, So, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get our players ready to play.
And again, Jim Schwartz talked about kind of building on what happened week one, and said it goes back to we haven't stopped a third down conversion yet against the Steelers when we hit the field. So Browns defense will play a key role in this game Monday night without question. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout, other side of the break. We will get the Steelers' perspective of things in Pittsburgh. Alan Saunders, Pittsburgh Steelers beat reporter from Steelers Now, straight ahead. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Browns getting ready to head to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers in a Monday night game. And they figure to find a team that will be playing with a sense of urgency, maybe some desperation. Steelers lost to the 49ers. Kenny Pickett, quarterback, on the Steelers offense in week one and the adjustments that need to be made for the Browns week two.
I wouldn't say it was too much of an adjustment. We just didn't play well. We didn't execute. It was nowhere near what we need to be. So, keep the preparation was the same. I thought the preparation for the week was good. It's just about going out there and playing well and executing.
Kenny, when you looked at your performance, was it throws you didn't make, or would you like to have a couple back that you did?
Definitely want a couple back early on, especially. I think it's a different game if we hit some early on and put points up and just kind of keep the pressure going back and forth. But I need to definitely be a lot better. We as an offense will be better. I'm excited to get back out there Monday.
Do you think it was decision making or just throwing it?
No, I was good with my decisions. It was just throwing in the execution.
What is it in your experience that you feel confident that you can bounce back from a performance like that?
Confidence in myself, the team, the guys around me. I know everyone's going to answer the bell. We're going to come out and play on Monday. So love the energy we have around here. Love the practice that we had today. Everyone's putting their best foot forward this week. So it's just about going out there Monday night, competing and winning.
With that, let's welcome in Alan Saunders. He's a beat reporter for Steelers Now. Alan, that week one, you saw the score, and I don't imagine the recipe ever for Steelers football is run the ball 10 times and throw it 46.
No, it's not. That game went about as far away from the recipe as you can possibly get, about as fast as you possibly can. It's actually, we've been sort of talking about it. It was one of the worst losses at home the Steelers have had in a long time. And that 1989 game against the Browns, if you're as old as I am and can remember that one, that's come up around here a couple times as like, oh, the last time we really saw things get that sideways that fast. So certainly not what the Steelers were looking for in any form or fashion in that game, but specifically with the offense, which really, they didn't have a first down in the first quarter. They had like 3 yards of offense going into the final drive of the first half. Just a dreadful performance from the Steelers offense. And you've heard Mike Tomlin address it. What's the mood around there? Getting ready for a team that, let's be honest, they've had a lot of success with, particularly in Pittsburgh, being the Browns. The Browns have had a challenge winning in Pittsburgh. Yeah, I talked to tight end Pat Freiermuth about this week, and he basically said, it's kind of a blessing in disguise. You can't sit around and feel sorry for yourself when it's the Browns on Monday Night Football. Like there's no choice but to get up for that game. And so, and not only, is it just the loss, but the Steelers are kind of dealing with the psychological blow of Deontay Johnson and Cam Hayward both suffering significant, what appear to be multi-week injuries in that game. So they got beat up and they got beat. And now they've got to find a way to get themselves right, schematically and in terms of what Kenny Pickett was talking about, just playing better. They've also got to kind of repair the psyche a little bit after a couple of body blows. You mentioned Cam Hayward, particularly. We'll talk about the offense in a minute, but how big of a loss is that given the 49ers ran the ball very well. I think it was 188 yards and almost 6 yards a carry. Yeah, and Christian McCaffrey has 150 yards against you when Cam Hayward is playing. What is Nick Chubb going to do to you when he's not? I think that's the real fear for the Pittsburgh Steelers, not just this game, but the whole rest of the season. The entire basis of what the Steelers are trying to do on defense starts with stopping the run. They can't do, they played 7 snaps of dime defense in that game, and Mike Tomlin was saying, well, we had Joey Porter Jr. as a second-round pick. He's the fourth cornerback. They're like, oh, we wanted to play him more. We thought we would get them in some more dime than that. They can't let their great pass rush with TJ Watt really get unleashed unless they can get teams behind the sticks in terms of down and distance. And they were never able to do that because they just could not slow down Christian McCaffrey. And if the same thing happens in this game, if you look at the history between the Steelers and the Browns, the games that the Browns have won in this rivalry recently have been games where Nick Chubb was able to be Nick Chubb. And that really feels like it is the whole battle for the Steelers in this game, or at least the first part of it, is they don't have a chance if they can't find a way to what they was going to be a patchwork defensive line. Larry Ogunjobi is also not 100%. DeMarvin Leal also not 100%. You're going to be mixing and matching guys. They've still got to find somehow, some way to stop Nick Chubb, or I'm not sure they have a chance in this one. And those are your interior defensive linemen, being Ogunjobi and Leal, yeah. And you're already missing the big guy in the middle in Hayward. All right, given that, what are some key matchups for this? Well, I don't think we can talk about matchups if we don't talk about TJ Watt versus DeJuan Jones, right? I mean, that is going to be a significant matchup. I really liked Jones coming out of the draft. I thought the Steelers had some real interest in him. They ended up trading up to get Broderick Jones. They could have maybe sat back and taken DeJuan in the second or third round. I think he's a great prospect, a big dude who does not move like a big dude, but there is maybe not a better test in the entire NFL than facing TJ Watt. And his second NFL game. So we're going to find out how ready he is right away. I think that's a big matchup. The second one I see is, without Deontay Johnson, the Cleveland Browns are really going to be able to tailor whatever coverage they want to George Pickens. They can really go as far into the bag of tricks as they want to in terms of bracketing, in terms of double coverage. And this is a secondary that should be feeling pretty good about itself after what they just did to the Cincinnati Bengals. If you go down and look at the stat, I understand it was raining, but look at the stat lines of those Cincinnati wide receivers compared to where they usually are. A goose egg for T. Higgins. That's a pretty good analog for a kind of guy that you would want to cover, like a guy like George Pickens. There's no one else in the Steelers receiving room that should be able to badly hurt them. So the Steelers have to find a way to get George Pickens open, even though he's going to be the focus of what appears to be a pretty good secondary.
Do you think the run game is kind of what you want to hang your hat on and lean on? Again, 10 runs, and I understand it got away from you quick. Is that something you think they try to get going?
Yeah, they absolutely have to. Not only they've got to take some off of Kenny Pickett's plate. He did not have a very good game. Might have been his worst game, just especially until things got out of hand. He was better in the garbage time of that game, but in the first half he was pretty dreadful. And they've got to find a way to take some off his plate and put him in a little bit better position. And he can't be throwing the ball 40 times. That's not a winning recipe for him or for the team. And I think they felt good about their running offense coming into the season. They added Isaac Seumalo, big guard in free agency. I think they're a better run blocking offensive line than they are a pass blocking offensive line. And I'd like to think they like their running back tandem with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, able to give them kind of a nice power speed duo. I think we'll see a lot more of that this week, but they have to stay in the game for that to work.
How did the line play, or did it get away that you couldn't even tell how the offensive line held up?
Well, they sort of set out to minimize Nick Bosa and did that. I think he had 2 tackles and 1 hurry. You'll take that against that guy any day of the week. I do think that let them vulnerable to some of the other guys, especially Armstead, kind of coming straight ahead. And that was really what was able to impact Pickett the most. It wasn't that rush coming off the edge. It was the pressure in his face. He didn't see things downfield. It didn't seem like he was reacting to that pressure very well. Like, he took a sack in a situation where a guy with his athleticism probably should not have. He just wasn't feeling that rush right in his face very well. The Browns have a much upgraded interior defensive line. So I think that's probably where, in terms of pass protection, they'll need to be better. They've done okay against Garrett. I think they can probably hold up against him on the edge. One thing to watch, right tackle Chukwuekorfor for in the concussion protocol, although Mike Tomlin has sort of been optimistic about him being able to play this week.
All right, before I let you go, what's the recipe for a win for the Steelers? What do you think the Steelers need to do and need to avoid in order to get a much-needed win Monday night?
They've got to stop or slow down Nick Chubb to get this Cleveland offense into bad down and distance situations, and then they need to force turnovers. They need to cause havoc and with Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick and get Deshaun Watson uncomfortable and in places that he doesn't want to be. I don't think this is a Cleveland skill position group that is necessarily, these are not the Cincinnati Bengals, right? They're not ready to just throw the ball up and down the field all over you. If the Steelers can stop the run, I think there are plays to be made there. And then on offense, they just need to be so much better in every way, but it starts with Kenny Pickett. He has to show that the quarterback that he looked like all offseason and all preseason is the guy he's going to be this season and not the one we saw last week, because they're not going to win very many if that's how he continues to play.
Alan Saunders, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Alan.
Thanks for having me. Alan
Saunders, Steelers Now, giving us the perspective from the Steelers, getting ready for that Monday night game against the Browns. That'll do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock to talk Steelers and Browns. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports4CLE.